what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to the Winning Drive. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Thank you guys for joining us, no matter where you are. We appreciate it. Also joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy, CJ Vogel, back from the ATL. We'll hear some of his stories about Hotlanta. Also, we're joined by the coach. He's on vacation, but he still wants to join us today. Former high school football coach at Bernie, Capel, Brownwood, Belton, Rotan. Also played college football at Abilene Christian and coached there as well. On the staff of the University of Texas for multiple head coaches. And now you can catch his work at shipleyranches.com. It's our own coach, Coach Bob Shipley. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm just hanging out in beautiful Cabo, baby.
Yeah.
Cabo. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel right now.
Oh, what you got? You ain't got no margarita or something in your hand. You're supposed to have some tropical drink in your hand, Coach, ready to go.
Someone with a fruit and an umbrella.
Oh, look at he said he a coach. He's hydrating.
Hydrating, baby.
He's hydrating in Cabo. All right, we're happy Coach could join us. Happy all you guys could join us. Yes, I want to know about how Magic City was as well, CJ. So we'll get CJ's tales from Atlanta. Coach maybe will give us a couple of tales from his vacation, but I want to get Coach's thoughts, of course, about the game because Coach couldn't join us for the in-game live watch. He was traveling, the travel day for him, but he did watch the game, so I want to get Coach's thoughts about that. We'll also talk plenty of the game that's on right now. We're not going to ignore basically. We'll kind of have an in-game live watch with this Georgia-Notre Dame game. We know Georgia very well. All right, Georgia's probably the team that matches up best with Texas in the country. Maybe it's the Arizona State Sun Devils. I'm not sure anymore. We'll get into that too and talk about it. CJ was at the post-game presser and had a lot of interesting notes. You can go check out his Twitter for those. We'll get CJ's thoughts about what the team had to say about their performance as well. And I did my rewatch. I actually rewatched the game. I just got done with it. That was a long game. So it took me a few hours actually to get the rewatch done and track it and everything else. But I'm ready to discuss the game because I got a chance to watch every play in detail. So let's get started. Remember, you guys drive the show. Wherever you want to talk about, that's what we'll talk about. Super chats jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time and get your super chat in. But we'll talk mostly Texas, Arizona State. We know who they're playing. Ohio State will. We got a little time on that, so we'll wait to preview. We'll kind of keep this show all about reviewing. But if you want to talk about Ohio State, hey, man, we can talk about Ohio State as well. All right, let's get to it, Coach. I want to get your thoughts initially because I didn't get a chance to do the in-game live watch with you. I usually get a little preview, a little sneak preview of what you think about the game there. So I just want to get your overall thoughts. You watched it. What do you think about the Longhorns' performance, Arizona State, Scatterbo? Give it to me.
Well, I'll tell you. Got a fan right here in Coach Dillingham.
Yeah,
Big fan. What a class guy. I mean, his team was scrappy. He's put together a really scrappy team in a short amount of time. He's a class guy. He made all his players come back in when they didn't want to shake hands after the game. I mean, he's a class guy. He had his guys ready to play. And I will say this too. My opinion, the quarterback, running back, talking some trash. Hey, I respect those guys. After this game, they're the real deal. I mean, those guys are warriors in my mind. I don't know the quarterback, of course, I wouldn't say he outplayed Quinn, but he's a very effective quarterback, of course, and Scatterbo certainly has my respect. I mean, that guy is a workhorse. But overall, I mean, it's the same song, 10th verse. I mean, we can't put people away. We let them hang around in the game. The scripted first drive was unbelievable, and then it was very inconsistent after that offensively, which leads me to believe my theory is correct that I've said for weeks now that, the scripting the plays typically goes pretty well. But then after that, when Sark is calling them off the cuff, he seems to lose some effectiveness in my mind. So kind of where I am.
Coach, on that topic, because you scored on that first drive, 77 yards, 2 plays, everything looks like it's still going. As an offensive coach, do you still have that script ready to go for the drive?
Yes, you do. But it's like after the punt return, we just kind of went off script and just what it seemed like to me, we just kind of lost our effectiveness. We never really got the running game going, which surprised me a little bit. I really thought that we would have more luck running the ball, but I just thought, Sark never really found his rhythm after that first drive, and it was just, just never felt like after that first drive that we were ever in any sort of rhythm, of course, until the second overtime. That was a great play, by the way, to Helms and
awesome.
To Gunner, and very, very well designed and all that. I just thought we would see more of that stuff in the first, few drives. But, Texas still continues to have their offensive woes, and thankfully the defense, is who they are and played a huge part in helping us win that football game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Thank God for the defense. But first, this is why, the playoffs, they help kind of you as a fan and as a spectator. You get to know your team because they get challenged and they get tested. And we haven't seen the Texas defensive front have to face a running game this physical and kind of a downhill running game, coach, and a running back like Scatterbo. And yeah, early on, Texas was winning more than their fair share against Scatterbo. That's a game we're on, though. You can tell the Texas defense got worn out. Now, because, in my opinion, it's because of the lack of complementary football. Stark talks about all the time, coach. You didn't help your defense out at all.
Right.
You help your defense out very often. And I think that's why they got worn out there in the second half. CJ, give me your thoughts about the game. I know you got a chance to rewatch it at this point, but you got a chance to see things live, different perspective. What were your thoughts about now having a chance to digest it 24 hours later?
Yeah, I don't want to say Texas was lucky to win that game when they're up 16 in the fourth quarter, but it felt like everything that they shouldn't have done in the fourth quarter, they did exactly, right? And again, very fortunate that Quinn Ewers and Matthew Golden were playing some of their best football of their entire careers. 7 catches, 149, a touchdown, a 2-point conversion for Golden. Obviously, Quinn from 5 minutes on, Rod, you put out the stat last night. He said, I've got 2 guys that I'm going to rely on to win this football game, or at least put my team in a position to go win the game. And what was it, 14 attempts, Rod, and you had 9 catches or receptions from Gunnar Helm.
Yeah.
It was 9 targets to Gunnar Helm and Matthew Golden. So it was clear. And, I like the adage I saw on Twitter earlier, in key situations, it's not plays, it's players, right?
Yep.
You got to go to the guys that you trust the most. And that's exactly what Quinn was able to do. He put his team in a position to kick a game-winning field goal twice in the final 2.5, 3 minutes, right? That's not an easy thing to do, especially when you've been in a rut the entire game. Overtime, I thought he was nails. I didn't really like a lot of the play calling, especially under 2 minutes when you take the deep shot, you run a screen, you lose 5 yards, and now you're kicking a 48-yard field goal, and you should be closer to about the 20-yard line. It was frustrating, but when you have better players, those players typically come in and make big-time impact plays, and evidently Texas did just that. But a very interesting final 30 minutes of just live footage, and sitting there wondering what in the world was happening to Texas in that fourth quarter. It was mind-boggling at times.
Yeah, no, they got worn out. Defensively, they were just worn out. But what I thought happened, and even on the rewatch, it confirmed it. All of your issues. This is what happens, Coach. You know better than any of us because you made playoff runs, right? The better the competition, all right, late in the season, the more your deficiencies and your flaws, they become glaring. When you play against teams in the regular season, not every team can match up with you. So, your flaws and issues, they're not necessarily Shakespearean. They're not tragic flaws. But you saw in this game how they can be tragic. So what came back to haunt you? What's been the issue for the last 5-6 games, Coach? Third quarter. Boom. It was terrible once again. You're the worst third quarter team in the country. And I'm not saying that makes you a bad team, but that continues to be a problem. It came back to haunt you because that's when they really got back in the game and the momentum completely switched, right? Turnovers have been a big issue with the team. And you were clean. You were so clean most of the game. And then turnover at a critical moment of the game, right? And now that's kind of been an issue for Texas. So I think in the run game, right? We thought we saw the run game. We thought it was like they figured it out. It's just Georgia you can't run against. And you know what? Ain't no shame in that. What's Notre Dame doing versus Georgia? I haven't watched the game. Hey, a lot of people can't run versus Georgia, all right? Ain't no shame in that. Ooh, I tell you, with 3.5 weeks to prepare, Coach, the Arizona State Sun Devils had a hell of a game plan against that run. And CJ and I had told you, they're really good against the wide zone anyway. They're actually better than you think versus the wide zone. You need to come with power concepts, counters and power, and come with some downhill concepts that'll work, pin and pull kind of stuff that work versus them. And that stuff didn't work either, Coach. They couldn't run the ball versus Arizona State, even with the size advantage. So a lot of things that have been the big issues for Texas all season, you see in this game, they all those chickens came home to roost, as they say, Coach, in the country, right? But you still won. Still won. That's how you know you got the clutch G. You got some testicular fortitude to you. Because you, as CJ said, you probably got no business winning that game. All the momentum was on their side. You weren't good, but you were clutch. And sometimes that's all that matters. That's all.
I'll tell you, that stadium, I kind of anticipated Texas having the edge in terms of crowd, maybe bodies in the stadium. And I kind of talked myself into it being 50-50, but towards the end of that game, there was no way. ASU certainly traveled much better than I anticipated. But also, when that momentum's swinging, you felt it because that side, their half of the stadium was rocking. They did a great job making their impact felt in the game because, again, when you get the big play to Scatterbo down the sideline, then you have the penalty on, and then you score, and then you get the 2-point conversion right after. There was one half of the stadium, which was to my left in the press box, which was the Texas sideline, the Texas, stands, whatever you want to call it. Woo! They were that side was quiet. And then you look across the way and you're like, oh, okay, this sounds more like Georgia was playing in the SEC championship game than Arizona State from across the country. So that was impressive. And if there's one thing going for Texas in terms of their next matchup against Ohio State is, hey, it's in Arlington, right? That's going to be a big hub, right? There's going to be a lot of orange there.
Yeah, you're damn right. That'll be like a home. That will definitely be like a home game for the Longhorns. No question about it. Coach, let me ask you about this because last game against Clemson, the first time they played against a quarterback like we believe that Cade Clemson, NFL quarterback, best quarterback they played, even though Carson Beck's a quarterback, he wasn't playing well at the time. And the secondary, you saw them get tested. This game, we saw the front get tested, and they were mashing in the first half. I mean, they were just Scatterbo was throwing timber tantrums on the sideline. I mean, it was just like, we was just slapping them in the face. And that second half, what's the old saying? Fatigue makes cowards of us all. And trust me, and the reason I'm saying this because Rod B been the game or two where we play a lot of snaps, and my defense, even though I was on the elite defenses, man, we got eaten up. We'll talk about that later on. So I'll trust me, I'm not pointing fingers without looking at my own self in the mirror. But there was no doubt, Coach, that game plan by Kenny Dillingham to keep that Texas defense on the field, it was a little bit of Joey McGuire in there. It was a little bit of that Washington game plan to keep away and keep the football. It seemed like a lot of mix of a lot of game plan. He did his research on how to beat Texas, didn't he, Coach? Because it seemed like it worked out, right?
Great game plan. Did not give up on what has gotten them where they are. And they eventually wore us down. Just wore us down. Nobody's done that all year. But they kept us close enough with their defense and with our miscues on offense. They kept it close enough to allow them to continue the game plan that he had. Now, had we been able to score again and kind of put a pretty good distance between us, that game plan might have had to change. But because we kept shooting ourselves in the foot, whether it was self-inflicted or it was, ASU's defense, whatever the reason, they kept it close enough to be able to continue with their game plan, and that is let's stay close enough where we have a chance to win at the end, keep their offense off the field, wear them down. That's what they did. I say Scatterbo, I have a lot of respect for him as a player. I don't necessarily as a person. You remember in the first quarter when he got stopped on the fourth down and a lineman was trying to help him up and he shoved him out of the way.
You're throwing timber tantrum.
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, that's Bush League, But act like, you've never been stopped before and it's not your fault. I don't appreciate that too much, admire that too much. But as a player, he could have given up, but he didn't. That sucker kept running hard. Kind of remind me, remember Robert Newhouse way back in the day for the Dallas Cowboys, number 44? He was a bowling ball running back. You just kind of wear you down like that.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. No, it's amazing that Because you start looking at it, he did all that damage in basically a second half and 2 overtimes.
Yeah.
The first half, CJ, I mean, Texas game plan worked. And I feel the game plan would have been effective. I'll talk about what I observed them doing on offense in terms of second half adjustments. But to me, it was just more about they just wore down that Texas defense. And Scatterbo not only had the longest rush, but he had the longest reception too.
Yeah. Should have been offensive pass interference on that play, by the way.
And by the also he had the longest pass.
Yeah, he did. That's right.
He had the longest pass, the longest run, and the longest reception of the game. It was a one-man show. So I agree with the coach in terms of personality. Hey, you agree, but as anybody who's a football theorist or anybody who knows ball, CJ, you got to go. You got to just tip your hat. You got to tip your hat, man. That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
No, heck of a performance again. And look, Texas bottled them up for the most part in the first half. And to your point, Rod, about as the games wear on and on and on, it was clear that Texas just didn't have the juice to be on the field for 100 plays, and not many people do. A quick couple stats here. Arizona State had 135 more total yards than Texas. They had 15 minutes and 48 seconds more of time of possession, and they ran 37 more plays offensively than Texas. Oh, but they also had more tackles for loss than the Longhorns, and that's even with 30 total pressures from the Longhorns front in the pass game, right? So that front was getting pressure, but they weren't creating sacks. They weren't getting to the quarterback. And a lot of that goes to the credit of Sam Leavitt, who statistically probably didn't have a pretty game. You look at the box score, but his ability to create, in the pocket, escape pressure, and then also to find positive yardage with his legs, very impressive. I was thoroughly impressed with him, even when the passing game wasn't necessarily working for him. But all those numbers just go to indicate a couple things, right? You're on the field for 16 less minutes than the opposing offense. Yeah, your defense is going to get exhausted. You run 40 extra plays, and sometimes that's a full game, right? You start playing some of those triple option teams, you only get about 40 snaps, 45, 50 snaps per game. Texas, in a sense, ran 2 full games with its defense out there against Arizona State. So, Rod, I got to ask you, as someone who's played, we looked it up before we got on camera, about what, 86 was the most snaps that you've played. How tough is that?
I think that is it. Yeah. I think that's it. I'm not sure, but I'm just going off modern football theory. And the obviously up-tempo, pace and space offenses are why you play a lot more snaps. I think it was Tech 2002, because basically I tried to put myself in the shoes of the Texas players I was watching in that game, where you're so exhausted, you can't think straight. I mean, every play you're just fighting for your life out there because you're just exhausted. And I remember what happened in that Tech game. So now y'all got me going, because I gotta tell you, I gotta take up for my defense, because we got lit up by Cliff Kingsbury and Wes Welker. They lit us up, man. Then Leach, they lit us up. 2002. We were supposed to win that game. Probably win that game. We go to a BCS game, and it might be one of the greatest games Cliff Kingsbury's ever played. Because I looked it up. I went and looked. I was like, why were we so bad in that game? In that game, we lost a ton of guys. Like, they got hurt in that matchup, and I went and looked it up. So we lost Nathan Vasher in that game. Nasty Nate. I mean, it's one of the greatest DBs of all time. We lost Marcus Tubbs. He went down. Derek Johnson went down. All right. Derek Johnson, I mean, you're talking about one of the greatest players in history of college football. He went down. Caitlin Thornton went down, who was also one of our starters. We lost like 4 starters in that game. We lost 4 starters early on in the matchup. And we had good players, but they were young players. And, man, they lit us up. And Welker was in the slot. I was on the outside. Still to this day, I regret not going to Coach Akina and telling Coach Akina, Coach, put me in the slot, put me on Welker. Now, am I saying how to shut Welker down? I ain't saying how to shut him down. NFL player, right? Really good player. But I think I'd have done better against him than some of our youngsters. I think they were putting that Nathan Basher on. And I think we had a lot of young DBs. Now, those young DBs, they still all went and played in the league. They were damn good, but they were young and inexperienced. Cliff Kingsbury and Wes Welker, they were veterans at that time, man, throwing the rock in that Leach offense, which, by the way, the infancy of the air raid wasn't mainstream by then. So I guess I'm making a lot of excuses as to why we got lit up. My point is, we play a lot of plays because we lost a lot of guys, and fatigue makes cowards of us all. And we got, we're like 800, 900 passing yards total because our offense was actually lighting them up too because it's Tech, of course. But we should have been better on that day. My point is, just like these guys, I remember a game where we were just exhausted, and I don't think I've ever been in a game we allowed 2 100-yard receivers. Maybe I did. Please don't send it to me, CB. My point is, it doesn't matter how good you are as a defense. If you're out there for close to 90-some plays, you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to get exposed. That's what happened.
I totally agree.
So, sorry. I had to take it for my defense, though. We did get lit up that game. Duck Camp, shout out to our friends at Duck Camp. Duck Camp produces premium outdoor goods for the outdoor spirit in each and every one of us. Duck Camp also sponsoring all of our coverage and our preview coverage of the college football playoff this week. So we appreciate them for doing that. But Duck Camp also one of our most dedicated and loyal sponsors, and they have been on board for a while. And now I can vouch personally for Duck Camp's gear. It's legit, folks. I got a couple of hoodies. I got a couple of hats. I got like 3 or 4 shirts from Duck Camp. It is not only great outdoor gear, but hey, I fake it. All right. I just wear it because it looks good. They got a color really close to burnt orange. So I'm a big fan of Duck Camp, dedicated to providing the best outdoor goods so you can outdoor good, whether you're an avid hunter or you prefer fishing or you like me and you like to hang out around the campsite and prefer the camaraderie of the campfire. Duck Camp is a brand that understands the culture of outdoor living and the good times and good friends that come along with living an outdoor lifestyle. So check them out today at duckcamp.com and go check out their new fall selection. Anytime you guys want to talk Notre Dame, Georgia, just butt in and be like, hey, let's talk about this play or that play, and we'll do that too. All right, let's hit a couple of questions here because we got some super chats. Thank you guys for the super chats. Let's hit first Scott Sturgeon. Thank you, Scott, for throwing out the super chat. Says, got New York tickets to Dallas. Can't wait to see y'all. Any updates about the game being moved? Yeah, this is a thing. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but at least on the Paul Feinbaum show, there was discussion because he was talking to Greg Sankey. He had Greg Sankey on the show, and because of the security issues and security risks they were dealing with by moving the Notre Dame Georgia game, that of course means they're going to get less rest. All right, getting ready for the next round of the playoffs. And Greg Sankey was asked, is it something that you're considering moving that game as a result of the present circumstance? And he said, quote, I have raised the issue of that potential change. And I recognize it's difficult. I don't know if it's impossible. So I guess he's leaving the door open to moving that game, Gus, possibly. Thanks, Scott, for the super chat.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. But I get it, trying to add an extra day for the winner of Georgia Notre Dame, but you still get a full week, right? You still get, I believe, 8 or 9 days to prepare. I mean, it doesn't feel that egregious.
Yeah, Coach, what are your thoughts? Because I kind of agree with CJ here because I think that this is just him being a politician. So he wants to be advocating for his guys, his teams in the SEC. But ultimately, I don't know if it's going to make a difference. If he's talking about hours, maybe a day of rest extra.
Yeah, I don't think so at this point. I mean, it's still going to be, 9 days, 8, let's see. 8 over a week, that they have. I don't see them doing that. So many people have already made flight arrangements and hotel arrangements. I mean, it would be a mass chaos. But, obviously you have to do what you have to do. And I certainly understand why they moved the game to today after the incredibly unfortunate incident there. But I don't know that 24 hours makes a lot of difference because they're still getting more rest than they typically had during the season from game to game.
Yeah, I guess on that topic, and I know we talked about just how extensive the workload for the Texas defense was, you're going to have 9 days in between the next game. What does that practice session look like for Texas over the next 4 days, right? I kind of hypothesizing what I would do if I was a head coach in this situation. Say, look, Thursday, Friday, y'all are in the facility. Y'all are getting treatment. Y'all are working. Saturday, Sunday, we'll be in, get some weights, go to the film room some more, but we're not touching pads. We're not touching anything along those lines until at least Monday. Get your bodies completely rested and recovered. I don't know if that's actually going to be the plan or not, but especially for that defense, I would say, look, kick your feet up, try and get some energy back in you because, God knows that you're going to need it against Ohio State the way they've been playing.
It's a great point, CJ. And then I'm a little bit torn because on the offensive line side, I'm like, y'all need some work. Like, I want to get my defense. So you can't do that, Coach. Can I have my defense arrested while I got my offensive line in pads? Get some work in. Like, I don't know.
No, you can't do that. You can't do that.
I agree with you. I think CJ, ultimately, your route is the best course of action. Coach, what do you think? I mean, you decide on rest here, or at this point in the season, what would you as a coach?
No, I agree with CJ. Yeah. Whatever new wrinkles you're putting on, you certainly need to rep that. But everything else, what is this? 16th game of the year?
Game? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you do what you do. You're going to have new wrinkles, but I agree. Let those guys get your legs under them. Just film time, mentally prepare, and just let the physical heal. Because our defense, like you said, they haven't seen a game like that all year, and so they need a couple extra days.
They do. Yep.
I feel like just to kind of get their legs back under them and get going again. So I think CJ has a great point, actually.
No, that's a credit to Arizona State. I mean, it's a Big 12 team, but they play a physical style of football.
They do.
Aggie_survivor, thank you for the super chat. We appreciate that. Says, didn't Quinn just do a Klubnik? Run game was nothing. Quinn had 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing, and ASU ran the ball. How about this, though? What I love about Quinn's game is it was at the beginning and the end. It was like a movie that had a bad middle. Like it was a movie that wowed you in the beginning and then wowed you in the end, and they're in the middle. You're Longhorn fan. You're like, what is happening here? But I'll give him a lot of credit, man. He was clutch. That's what I always talk about putting the cape on. At times you have to put the cape on. I did not think Quinn was capable of it, no pun intended, because of how, just said average he was throughout most of the game. But man, that last 5 minutes of regulation and then the double overtime, he put a cape on. And I think a lot of it was just going to guys he trusted, going to guys he trusted, coach, Matthew Golden, Gunnar Helm. But I agree, man. If he can be that clutch for the rest of this postseason, Texas is going to win the national title. I do believe they can do that. Now, the question is, can your defense keep it close enough for him the clutch gene to matter? That's why your offense is having issues. That I don't know. But if he can be that clutch, Texas got a good shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree.
The best player on the team is always a backup quarterback, it seems like, certainly at Texas, with Arch Manning sitting back there. And there's a lot of people complaining and saying that, if we're going to have a chance to win this, we got to play Arch, But they forget about the clutch plays that Quinn made because, they focus more on the second quarter and third quarter, not the first quarter and fourth quarter. Quinn is clutch when he has to be. Second and third quarter woes. I don't know if that's him. I tend to think it's more of Sark just not being in a good rhythm in his play calling in the third quarter. Personally, yeah. I just love the way we come out. I could tell when he's got a team pegged early on, and that first drive, it was obvious he had him pegged. It was a 2-play drive.
2 plays. 2 plays.
Bam, we score. Then we get the punt return for a touchdown, and it was like, okay, well, out goes the game plan. I'm going to call him off the cuff now. It's confusing to me, but it is what it is. We'll see how we can rebound from this. But I like the rest idea, and I like the fact that who knows what's happening. I mean, Oregon beat Ohio State earlier in the year, then Ohio State comes back and just embarrasses them. College football that's why we love college football. I mean, you don't ever know what's going to happen, especially this time of year. You don't know what's going to happen. I've had Arizona State people yesterday telling me that after the game they were bad, telling me that, Ohio State's going to roll us, and this and that. And, here's what it is.
Football's about matchups. You don't know.
It is. It really is.
Yep. Just like everybody thought Texas was going to roll Arizona State. And honestly, they probably should have. And people were like, well, if Texas executed, they'd have blown them out. When was the last game Texas executed for 4 quarters, guys? That's why I predicted they were going to put a 50 burger on them is a little bit misguided. It's like, well, you're assuming Texas is going to play the best game they played all year long. and that the team we've seen for 14, 15 games, that's not who they are. They don't play 4 quarters. They play an amazing quarter and a half or a half a quarter.
Spurts.
Yes, they're spurts. Oh my God, they're spurts. They look like one of the greatest teams in the history of college football for spurts. They really do. They look that good. But that ain't gonna last. That's not good. That's not something they can sustain over 4 quarters. That's why you got a shot. And you know who knew that? Kenny Dillingham. He knew it. He knew that I just gotta, like you said, Coach, I just gotta stay in this damn thing. If I stay in it, I got a shot. Because at one point, Texas will start to make critical errors in crucial moments, and they did.
The best way I can kind of describe it is just like a boxing match where, rounds 1 and 2 go instantly to Texas. They're knocking them all over the park, down on the mat. They get a 10-second count. They get them back up. All right, they keep fighting. They keep swinging. You keep going round after round. And then finally, they're in the power position, right? And it's a 4th and 13, and it take almost a Hail Mary kind of land to the face there for Arizona State to be like, okay, wait a minute. Now we're back on the back foot where we were just scratching and clawing to fight to get out front. And I don't know. Again, it was such a bizarre game all the way through. But I'll tell you what, after that first 3 possessions, I'm sitting in the press box. I even tweeted it out. And hand up, that's on me. Hand up, it's on me. I tweeted it. And I put it out there for the world. I'm like, this game's not going to be close. This is going to be a blowout. Texas is just too big, too fast, too quick. 2 plays, 77 yards, touchdown. Next punt, touchdown. I'm like, okay, this isn't going to be remotely close. And again, hand up. I underestimated Arizona State, and I probably gave a little bit too much, confidence or expectations for Texas to be able to handle the rest of that game. But what a game, 100%.
Yep, we always talk about it. Can you weather the Sark run? If you can't, you're gonna get blown out. You can weather it. And whenever it comes, sometimes it's in the first quarter, sometimes it's in the second quarter, sometimes it's in the fourth. And you can weather it whenever it comes. You got a shot. And they were able to, because it was the first 3-4 series of the game. Like that's when they hit. And what I've learned about Texas is they're not the running thing. Maybe it was injuries on the offensive line that hurt the running game. Maybe that's it. If we want to just make excuses. But the truth is, we don't know if the running game is the identity of the offense. No, we don't know that. We just know it worked against Kentucky. It worked against A&M. Worked against Clemson. Man, we don't know because Georgia stopped it. Now Arizona State's stopped it. So I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that's the identity. I will say this, though. Explosive plays, that's Texas' identity, guys. And that's kind of like Coach being a riverboat gambler. That's like living in Vegas at the tables. Because basically you never know how they're going to come. Think about all the guys. The game changed on explosive plays. You start off the game. 2 explosive plays, score a touchdown. End of the game, 2 explosive plays, last 2 plays, touchdowns. That's what you are. If you had 7 explosive plays, not one was on the ground, by the way.
No.
So 4 of them came on the first 2 plays and the last 2 plays. Then you had the Sark screen, the quintessential Sark screen we all love. That was another one. Then you had, I think, an empty formation. Ryan Wingo had a 27-yarder.
That was big.
To get you so 6 of your 7 plays either came first on the script at the beginning of the play. And then think about it, the tight end leak. How often have we seen that, CJ? That's a Sark conceptual signature. We see that play all the time. You saw it against Bama. We saw it against Iowa State. They scored a touchdown. You see that play all the time if you watch enough Sark football.
It's so pretty.
Yeah, it's beautiful. By the way, tight end leak works. It works on everybody. Boise State did it against Penn State. It works all the time. You should do it more. But my point is, Texas isn't. I don't know what they are offensively. You can't rely on Quinn all the time, and you can't rely on the running game. What you can rely on is they're gonna break them. And if you can limit explosive plays against Texas, then maybe that's why you got shot. Because that's what Georgia did. That's what Georgia. Because I think that's what Texas lives on. They're just explosive plays.
Yeah. The last thing I'll add to this, because again, Texas did win the football game, right?
No, I agree.
It's huge, right? That this season is continuing. And Bobby and Jerry and I talked about it a little bit on the Rapid Reactions, what this meant for the program, because it's big, right? Texas is a Final Four team for the 2nd consecutive season. The only team, obviously, that can say that. But the point that I wanted to make is you got good players at Texas, and at times I think it's lost with coaches to kind of outthink themselves, outthink whoever's on the other sideline calling the specific plays. And Quinn did a great job of this, but just rely on the good players that got you to this point, right? It's easy to say in retrospect and say, yeah, it was great that Texas went to Golden and Helm so often down the stretch, but when you find those lulls, it's all about finding what's worked for you in the past. And And what we've seen throughout this entire year is those two have really been the main constants in this entire season.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree. And that was smart on Sark. That's why I'm giving Sark a lot of credit. I know people say he got on coach. He got on coach. That's fine. But in the end, he figured out a way to win the game. And he relied on the guys that brought him here and a couple of plays. He's like, man, these are my money plays. These work all the time. I'm going to go back to these plays that have worked a lot for us.
That leak, tight end leak, that was my favorite play call of the entire season. It was beautiful.
Chef's kiss. And then to start off the game, guys, I don't know why Arizona State was so confused. That play they ran to Matthew Golden, that's a Sark staple. That split flow RPO that they run that all the damn time. Now the only
been on every opening script that we've seen the entire year.
The only change was CJ I saw was that they motioned DeAndre Moore to it. So it ended up being you had to deal with Helm going into the flat and the glance route in addition to the wheel route. He added a wheel route to it.
Yeah.
So I'll give Sark credit. I don't see him usually add the wheel to it. Usually it's just kind of that straight kind of RPO glance with the out there. But yeah, I don't know how you're not ready for that one. And then they ran the stalk block and go on the touchdown to Moore, which we've seen
that plenty.
They scored like 4 touchdowns on that one this year. So I don't know if you're Arizona State, I guarantee defense course like, dude, we've been running these plays in practice. What is going on with you guys? And then they settled down, and then we saw the rest of the game worked out. But I'll give Sark credit. He went to the plays that worked and to the guys and to the players, right? Think players, not plays. Let's get back to the super chats here. Sean, thank you, Sean. Unpopular opinion. We match up better against Ohio State than we did against Arizona State. Oh, CJ, I'm going to leave this one to you. That was good. Interesting. What are your thoughts? I can't believe that one. I don't think that's too many good players.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think Ohio State has the most talented roster in football. I think they're the best wide receiver in football. I think you look at their edges, JT Tuamolo and Jack Sawyer. I think they're tremendous. They have the best combination of safeties in the country with Caleb Downs.
Yes.
And Lathan Ransom, both I think are going to be day 2 picks at the latest. I think Downs are going to be a day 1 guy, maybe top 15 eventually. They have a lot of talent. They have much more speed, and they just held Oregon to what I believe -11 rushing yards. So if Texas is struggling to move the ball against an Arizona State team that's not going to be as big, as fast, or as quick off the line of scrimmage, I'm deeply concerned for what that offensive line is going to have in store for them when Ohio State lines up on the opposite side of them. It's early, but I'm deeply concerned.
Yeah, I agree with CJ. Ohio State might be the most talented team in the country. They're
figuring it out. They're playing better than anybody in the country right now.
Yep. Yeah. The only hope, I think your best hope is you got to turn Will Howard into Will Spill the Pill Howard, who we all know that guy's in there now. He's in there somewhere. He's just surrounded by now more talent and better coaching overall. Edgar, thank you for the super chat, Edgar. It says, seems like when it's time to motor up the offense, I like that term. Good job, Edgar. Texas and Quinn can be clutch. Why not play that speed all the time? It feels like we think too much sometimes instead of just rolling. Hook them. That's a good question. What are your thoughts, Coach? I know you kind of advocated at one time they should run tempo coming out in that third quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. I really thought that might be a way that we could overcome our third quarter woes, was coming out with the fast-paced offense, motored up offense, as Edgar says. We used to call it the NASCAR offense, just speed, go. I still don't think that's a bad idea. I just wish Sark and his staff could somehow come up at halftime with some scripted plays for the third quarter based on what they've seen, and have some success coming out, after halftime, because there's a huge void there that we're missing. We cannot continue to ride this train for 2 more games. We can't. I mean, the teams are too good. Ohio State is the most talented roster in the country, in my opinion. You cannot continue to play the way that you're playing, with playing good in the first, good in the fourth, second, little spotty, third is consistently bad for us. You cannot continue to do that. I don't know, but I do think Quinn has that it factor in the clutch. I mean, when you're dropping back for, we've all seen the video, and I mean, what could be his last play as a Longhorn.
Yeah,
and he's money. He's money.
Your money.
So again, I put it on Sark. I mean, not that, Quinn still, it seems like on the deep balls, it's like he's throwing up a prayer. It's just, just throwing up a rainbow, hoping our guy can come down with it. I don't like that. It seems to be a jump ball every time. He's throwing it to double coverage deep. I don't like that. But he ran the play that Sark called. And Sark knows his strengths and his weaknesses, and his strength is not that deep ball, like that. It is in.
He called that one. Yeah. No.
Yeah, he did. Now it is in plays that have some type of deception, some type of deception. I'm talking about in terms of, like on the first drive, he obviously had that scripted and knew that he would have them in a bind when they were in that route combination, just like he did in the second overtime with Gunnar Helms. And we have wondered where this play has been. Remember, he used to run it quite a bit.
He used to run a lot.
This design play where everything's flowing to the right and the tight end sneaks out blocks a little bit and then sneaks out, does a little
delayed release
on the backside. We wondered where that has been. Remember, we kept talking about that. Why has Sark not run that tight end kind of delay away from all the motion, the action? And we finally saw it in a one-play drive. A one-play drive, the second overtime to win the game for us. I just don't know where that has been, but it seems like we're having to use, I wouldn't call it trickery, but we're having to use some type of elusive plays, to make things happen like that, instead of just running the ball, and just doing simple, everyday things that great blue blood programs do to win games. It's like we can't do that. We can't just establish the run game. We can't just dominate the play with just regular standard football. We've got to use some type of confusing the defense somehow, to get guys open and to get the ball to them. That's the frustrating thing about it. And so those big plays are, they're plays that are designed to confuse the defense instead of just playing freaking football. Run downhill, run the power, run the counter, run that ball downhill, and let's make some let's own the line of scrimmage. But we can't do that because we have to try to continually deceive people to get our explosive plays.
No, that's interesting, Coach. I like this point you're bringing up, because if you could just say, you know what, we're bigger, we're better, and we're stronger than they are, we're going to run downhill. We're going to play gap power schemes. You got that guy, block him, reset the line of scrimmage, push him 3-4 yards back, and we're going to run downhill on him. They couldn't do that. And to your point about look at where the explosive plays came from, I can remember them. I think you had 7 explosive plays throughout the game, none of them on the ground. Your first play was a split zone RPO. You put them in conflict, and they screwed it up. Right. Your second play after that was the stalk, block, and go touchdown to DeAndre Moore. You had the Sark screen, to your point about deception. So your first 3 explosive plays are all deception. You had there was the one Matthew Golden where he just wins on the sideline. They threw a deep film there. They engineered a one-on-one. He just won on his own on the sideline there on a fade route. Beautiful throw by Quinn Butler. NFL throw. NFL catch by Matthew Golden too, I believe. But then late in the game, you had the tight end leak, which we talked about, right? Where you have the option to hit him on the drag, or you can hit him on when he runs the up, which they hit him on the up. And then you had which I thought was a very beautiful stack Twins look, just the Matthew Golden touchdown, but they call it a nod route for those who don't know. And if you watch Matthew go to the top of the route, he gives a nod to the DB. It's just a head, so the DB will respect the outside leverage, usually stop their feet. They call it I'm a nod. Yeah, give him a nod route. Beautiful route by Matthew Golden. And he creates the nod. So it essentially still was a deception base. Like, we got to fool this DB.
Right.
I'm not just going to engineer a one-on-one, have my guy beat him. That's why frustration sometimes, I think I talked to Brian Robeson in the post game, and he's like, why does Sark just take shots sometimes? Like, he'll just have a one-on-one with Ryan Wingo. Like, I'm taking the shot on my guy. To your point, Coach, that's about, hey, my guy's better than your guy. I'm going to go beat him.
Right.
There wasn't on Ryan Wingo. Quinn's got to make the throw. If Quinn makes the throw, is there. But that is kind of the frustration. And we had someone on the post game say, how many elite players does Texas have on offense other than Kelvin Banks? And I guess their definition of elite was, guy that's going to be drafted in the first round, that kind of guy. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't know. I don't know if they have any of those guys, if that's your definition of elite. But those are the guys you say, like Ohio State has in Smith, and saying, no, he's one-on-one, he's open, period, done. I don't even need to know what the route is. I don't need no play action. I don't need no RPO. I don't need a defender in conflict. I just need him one-on-one with my guy because my guy's better.
Yeah.
And I guess, and maybe there is some of that, Coach, but give Sark credit. He still schemes him open.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to Eric here. Eric says, afternoon from Midland, Texas. Coach Ship and Rod, how difficult is it to effectively fix the pad level issues and zone blocking placement in the 1 week to prepare for a team like Ohio State? And you got injuries to deal with too, Eric. Thank you for the super chat, right? You got injuries on the O-line to deal with too. Yeah, I said pad level was an issue. What did you guys see watching it? I was listening to Brian talk about it in the post game. He said, and I loved what he said, because he said, man, they're beating us to our marks. Yeah. And the crazy thing is, I've heard Sark say the same thing. He said it like after the Georgia game, I believe. And then I started thinking about, I've heard Kyle Flood in coaching clinics talk about when they run a lot of their run concepts. He teaches the guys, hey, there are man marks and there are land marks, and you got to hit your man marks. That's when you're blocking a man. Hit your land marks, you're blocking a certain area. And even running backs have land marks and man marks. They're looking at certain, like they're the outside hip of the tackle on a certain play, and looking at, the inside hip of the tight end on a certain play. They're looking at marks too. And it's almost like with those 3+ weeks to prepare, Arizona State not only stacking the box, they played a lot of single high and loaded the box and blitzed on early downs. It seemed like they beat Texas to those marks, and they kind of suffocated the run game in that way.
I thought very much the same. I thought initially the push off the line of scrimmage wasn't bad. It was just finding what you needed to hit or block in the second level, right? And again, to Arizona State's credit, they haven't gotten bigger or smaller since week 1, and they're not a big defensive line. They're not a big football team in that front seven yet. They're, I believe, 35th or 36th in rush defense the entire season. So you could tell that that's kind of been their MO the entire season is, defensive line, let's be honest, you're probably not going to make a lot of football plays in the run game, but what you're going to do is set up the guys in the second level, our leading tackler, Xavier Alford, and let these safeties drive, run the alleys, make plays near to the line of scrimmage, and force teams to kind of make life difficult in the run game. And that was obviously what they did very well, but I totally agree. It just didn't feel like there was the connections with the linebackers and the safeties or whoever was in the second level for Texas. And that's the biggest concern, because you were doing that very well against Clemson, right? It was paved roads for those running backs in that game. But that inconsistency, again, it's pretty scary, pretty concerning.
Yeah, I think that to answer Eric's question, I feel like that, we do at times certainly have pad level issues, but it was like Arizona State. I mean, they were there before we were. It just seemed like they fit it so well. So I feel like when you go back and watch this film as a coach, you want to say, okay, that's how teams are going to play us. So you've got to come up with with an alternative plan to make it look like that, but something else. And whether that's the pony package, I'm with you, Rod. I mean, we have not done the pony package justice that I think we could do this season. And there's not a better time, there's not a better team we could be playing to pull out the pony package than Ohio State, in my mind. It's going to slow down. It's going to slow down their front. They're not going to be able to be as aggressive. They're not going to beat us to our landmarks, because now you've got two backs back there, and they have to respect the fake or whatever the other back is doing. So I think this is a great week to pull out the pony package. We have to get the running game going. I'm just going to tell you, in my opinion, I've seen crazier things happen, but we cannot win the national championship if we don't start running the ball better. We cannot lay an egg running the ball and expect to beat Ohio State, or expect to beat Georgia again, or expect to beat Notre Dame. It's not going to happen. We have to find whatever it is that will work for us running the ball. And if it's a pony package, try to get some pass plays and RPOs and everything off of that, and get your package together, and let's go with it. My goodness. I mean, we played we played more games than Texas has ever played in one season in the history of the program. At what point are we going to say, okay, what we're doing is not working? It's just not working. Running the ball. And to win a championship, you have to be able to run the ball. If they take that away, then you're just relying on trying to beat people throwing the ball, and that's really, really hard to do nowadays, especially when you're to the Final Four and everybody's loaded with talent.
Damn right about that. Good stuff, Coach. Let me thank our friends over at Flat Creek before we move on. Did you know the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the vineyard closest to Austin? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Flat Creek Estate Winery, just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine. We love it. It's super Texan. It's great. They have it actually at your local Specs. They also have it at your local Central Market here in Austin. I've seen the display there, so I'm glad the good word is getting out about my favorite wine, Flat Creek Estate Winery. Of course, Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. So give them a check, give them a shout today or look them up today at flatcreekestate.com. Really appreciate Flat Creek Estate Winery for being a sponsor of On Texas Football and of the Winning Drive. I saw that. So the coach brought up his pool to go. No, I love it. Hey, and I love this coach is coming by. Is it Nayman Roberts? You brought that up earlier, Matthew. Said, right, Tim Tebow said today they are beating us to our marks with smaller linebackers and DNs, run the ball at them and stop going side to side. I was having an online discussion because not only Brian Robertson also brought that up, and Sarkis said it too. But I was talking to Vance Bedford online, like just on Twitter, and he was saying the same thing, that we should just run downhill on them. They tried, guys, at times. They tried to get in the gap power schemes. I just don't know if that's the strength of Texas offensive line. And you would think with big humans, you'd be like, what do you mean? They're bigger than they are. Yeah, but that doesn't always win at the point of attack, as we saw against Arizona State, just because you're bigger. All right, getting back to Super Chats. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. How about this one from Jay? He says, heard someone bring up that without special teams, it would have been 10-6 at half. That really puts yesterday, especially offensively, into perspective. Yeah, listen, this is the issue that we've talked about with Sark, and Coach brought it up. And CJ, I think this is something for Sark. It is worth a rabbit hole kind of deep dive for him. What's your issue when you're off script? On script, you're amazing. Like on script, you're one of the greatest offensive minds in football. Off script, not so much. Even though the last like 4 plays they called, I thought were fantastic. And this has been the issue for Sark, even going back to his first season, guys. Get up double-digit points and then can't hold off because you win the battle of preparation and game planning, but you lose the battle of adjustments, which means you're kind of losing a chess match within the game. I've said before, listen, if you got a 40-play script, somebody needs to ask Sark again, how long is his opening script? Remember that young lady who was covering the was it the college football playoff game, I thought, against Washington, where she said, I asked Sark, he said his opening script is 40 plays. Like 40 plays. Good Lord. Now, if it is 40 plays, that's fine. Why can't unless the game has some type of dramatic, unexpected event, right? And I know you got to adjust on the fly. Can you let somebody else call them 40 plays that you've been practicing all week long that everybody knows? Like we just talked about it, CJ. The split zone RPO came first. The stalk blocking go came second. Those are plays y'all been running all season. You can't let Kyle Flood call that play. Does his voice sound different than yours? They're going to freak everybody out. Let them call the first few plays until something crazy happens. A turnover or something freaky, whatever it may be. All right, something crazy that somebody gets injured. I'm not going to. But if nothing crazy happens and the game kind of plays out early on like you thought, let somebody else call plays while you take notes and start the second half script. You should be writing the second half script while they're calling your opening script, which you worked on all week long. You already know it. It's already said. Now, you got the headphones on, so if something happens, you go, guys, no. I know this on the script. I know the fourth play was a run play. No, we're going to throw it. I like this play. This is a better play. You can do that. But something's got to change. My suggestion always been, Sark, your opening script is what it is. You need to start working on the second half script early on. Or find you a group of guys you trust. Who's the next best play caller on the staff behind Steve Sarkisian? Do we know that? Who is it, Coach? Who is it?
I would say Milwee. He's a guy that I mean, he's his right-hand man. He knows everything Sark says and everything Sark thinks.
Let's go, man.
That's my whole point. Get those guys in the corner and let's make some adjustments and get a script going, and let's go. Good night. I mean, how many times do we have to prove that Sark calling plays off the cuff is not his forte? That's not his strength.
Yeah.
So let AJ Milwee, CJ call the second. Let him come up with the second half script, or at least give you some notes on it. Yeah. Whatever. I'm just saying something's got to change, right?
Something's got to change. And look, I'll only add 2 points to this. Milwee has called plays in those fall camp scrimmages before. So when, obviously Sark's midfield behind the quarterbacks trying to evaluate, he's got the headset on, but he's not telling them which plays to run. Yeah. So normally it's Milwee calling for the first offense versus the first defense, and you got Flood coaching the second offense versus the second defense, or vice versa, right? So you get the quarterbacks working with both coaches, both different sets of plays, both tendencies, whatever it is. That's how it went in the fall camp, at least. But my big thing with this is, look, we've known Sark's not a good third play caller, right? Like 2021 should have been the biggest indication for all of us. You go 5-7 and what you led maybe 8 or 9 of those games in the third quarter going into halftime, and they squandered every single game essentially because of their third quarter inefficiencies. This is nothing new. It's just in a new jersey with a new quarterback and a new hope, essentially. So look, maybe we need to go back and revisit what some of those Alabama teams and USC and Washington teams did, because that's just kind of been who he's been at Texas. Is you get a really good start to games, and we've talked about it, the spurts for Texas. Mm-hmm. They're great because you get 14, 17, 21 points like that in the second quarter. But that vanishes, right? It completely evaporates in that third quarter. I don't know what the remedy is. I don't, because I don't think it's brand new play calling. I don't think it's brand new concepts that they haven't ever used before that they're just trotting out in every third quarter. But I think just the timeliness is where my issues are. And more than anything, you look at the coming out of the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter, right? You're on the 40-yard line, basically, the 38.
Yeah.
And you have time, right? You have plenty of time. You got 2 timeouts. You go fade route and complete. Haven't been good with fade routes all year. Then you go to a pretty predictable screen pass. Oh, let's just pick up 5 yards right here. Let's get the screen going. Blown up immediately. Now you're in 3rd and 10. False start. 3rd and 15. Now you're sitting there thinking, well, we're probably right on the range of our kicker, who's already had his issues from length. What can I do now? And it's the timing of these play calls that sometimes I sit there and say, okay, I don't know. But other than that, the third quarter is that's always just been how it's gone for Steve Sarkisian Texas offenses.
Unfortunately, you're right about that. It's 420 somewhere says Sark didn't plan for a fight because he thought he had the horses to beat them and didn't adjust when that wasn't the case. By the way, everyone talking about targeting, but not the other missed calls. Thank you, It's 420 somewhere for the super chat. I think there may be some truth to that. I almost felt like them scoring so fast, I think the sideline relaxed a little bit. I think a lot of them started to believe, like you said, CJ, when they scored so quick, they were like, I told you we was going to blow these dudes out. I didn't do it. I think on the sideline, I've been on that sideline, and that can happen. I think it's like a little, oh, man, we got this. We got this. Scatterbo can't get nothing, and we already up. Even though we're not up big, we gonna blow these boys out, and it never really happened. And I think that kind of worked. They lost a sense of urgency early.
Yeah.
Right? It felt that way. Let's go with Jay here. Jay says Texas can win multiple ways, running and passing. They just have to play four quarters. That's a good thing, because you know what? I wonder if because it was obvious they couldn't run it. They tried a few times. I think their longest run play was like 7 yards. It might have come on the outside zone. There were guys open though, and I almost wonder why Sark. Like I went and looked at empty formation. Anybody checked out how many times they ran empty? If you're gonna throw it, empty is the most extreme version of like F it. I'm gonna throw the damn football. I don't care who knows it. All right, that's what that is. And I think you kind of got to that point, but Sark didn't want to go totally into empty. You guys know empty went 3 of 3, had a touchdown, had 2 explosive plays out of empty formation. You had the 27-yarder to Ron Wingo, you had a 23-yard touchdown early on in the game out of the stalk block and go. That was out of empty because you had Jaden Blue exiting the backfield. You averaged 19 yards per attempt on empty formation, and you only ran it 3 times. I was like, Maybe when you started thinking about abandoning the run, you should be like, no, let's screw it. Now, the reason I'm not going to hold this against Sark is because you didn't have a lot of plays.
Well, yeah.
Usually you got about 20 more plays, and you can throw in some of this stuff. He didn't have a lot of plays to really troubleshoot like he usually does.
I was going to add, I wonder if you didn't see it more because you were trying to combat the flip side of or being on the bad side of the time of possession battle, and with your defense as gashed as it was, and time of possession, time being on the field or sitting on the bench in real life minutes is different than game minutes, obviously. I'm thinking maybe, again, I don't have the answers, but my hypothesis there is that, there was a hope that you could figure out the run game to keep the defense on the sideline. But I'm with you. If something's working as clear as empty to the tight ends, and normally when you see empty, you see a screen follow it right from, DeAndre Moore or a motion, whatever.
Right.
I'm with you. If that's going to be something that's clearly working for Texas, and I'd like to see more of it.
Yeah.
Hey, Rod, I want to ask you, have you broke down this game in terms of Texas offense target to motion?
I did. Yeah. I haven't added up. Yeah. Targets to motion. How about this one, Coach? You're going to love this. I love targets to motion. You had 0 until the last 5 minutes of regulation and overtime. And then you went 3 of 3. And so he knows it worked.
Obviously, when the game's on the line, he's going to target to motion. He knows.
Yeah, he knows. He figured, I think once to Matthew Golden, one was to Moore, and then there was another, I think, to Weisner. When they motioned out of empty formation, they threw it right to him. He knows, Coach. He knows. He's listening. He knows. He's a smart man. Let's get to some more super chats here. How about this one? This comes from Alessandro. Thank you, Alessandro. How good is Ohio State's O-line? Will the Texas pass rush be able to get home? I think the Texas pass rush can get home on damn near any O-line. Am I wrong about that, CJ? That if you got, especially the NASCAR package with Colin Simmons, I got faith that group can create. They had how many pressures they have, CJ? You put it out there on Twitter.
31 pressures. It was a season high in pressures. 28 was the most previously, and that was against Oklahoma, who did not have an offensive line functioning. This was a text I got from a buddy earlier today. Trey Moore since November 7th. Or since the start of November, 7 games.
Okay.
21 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Damn, he's heating up, ain't he?
He is. And of course, we know about Colin Simmons. I believe he's up to 9.5 sacks, if my math's correct. He had one yesterday or on Tuesday, whenever the game was. My mind's such a blur right now. But I guess it was yesterday, no? Wow.
Yeah, it was. Trust me, yeah.
But Ohio State's had injuries to its offensive line. They've been banged up. They lost their center for a year. Thank you, Matthew. 9 sacks for Colin Simmons.
Wow.
And you see Trey Moore creeping up right there with Barron Sorrell, 5.5 apiece. But Texas will have opportunities to get after the quarterback, but very much like what we've seen with mobile quarterbacks, Cade Klubnik, Sam Levitt, can you get them on the ground? Because, hey, Will spill the pills. Also, Will can avoid the pass rush power at times too.
Nope. He can be Will the Thrill. I've seen him. I've seen him be Will the Thrill out there, but like I said, I'm with you. Texas had issues, and everybody does, being able to corral a mobile quarterback while they keep a play alive, and that's what Sam Levitt did a lot of. Jeff here on the super chat. Thank you, Jeff. Says, guys, we need to wear maize and blue. You're damn right about that. We probably should. Yeah. Probably not bad at all. All right, let's take another sponsor real quick before we get close to the end of our live stream here. Hargrove Roofing. We're very grateful to our friends over at Hargrove Roofing, with offices all over Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas, and of course, the great state of Texas. Hargrove Roofing will take care of all of your roofing needs. Plus, they're Longhorn friendly, ladies and gentlemen, with partnerships with lifetime Longhorn Bert Auburn. Don't say anything mean. And my former teammate, lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee. They're the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there, and we really appreciate their support. And you can get a free roof inspection today. Just give them a call, 512-645-3202, or reach out to them online at hargroveroofing.com. That's hargroveroofing.com. All right, let's get back to the super chats here. Kabir said, Rod, how has Muhammad been playing? Yeah. He's probably had his 2 worst games of the season back to back. And he didn't play bad in this game because he made 2 huge plays in the end zone.
Yeah.
2 PBUs in the end zone, guys. And if he's not fighting like hell for that PBU, was that in the fourth quarter when they threw that one into the end zone? If he's not fighting like hell, that was a 50-50 ball that that receiver could have easily corralled if he was ready to give up on that play. Fought like hell for that one and made a hell of an athletic PBU early on in that game down end zone. And then Texas blocked the field goal, I believe. Right? That was going into the
full extension diving.
Yes. That's draft highlight reel stuff, guys. That'll be on draft highlight reel. So I hate to say he had a bad game. That halfback pass, guys, the technique was so egregiously sloppy. And literally during the play, while the ball is in the air, he's complaining about, you can see him do this, like while the ball is in the air. Like basically saying, where's my help? Not the time to complain. Not the time to complain about where my help is when the ball's in the air. It is what it is. All right. Go watch it. He's complaining literally while he's chasing the guy. He's like, no, go stop the guy. Go make a play on the ball. And he wasn't crazy out of position. It was the ball was underthrown. So I think last week he struggled with Cade Klubnik and those wide receivers from Clemson. This week, I don't necessarily think he struggled. He did have the PI. Hell, Janae Barron had a PI too. Those guys were just tired, honestly, by the end of the day. So all their technique was sloppy. But yeah, the halfback pass, he made a man turn. If you make a man turn, that's your man. If you expected inside help, why didn't you play outside leverage? If you expected inside help. Don't be complaining about your inside help when you made a man turn and turned to the man and then flipped your hips and then was complaining like, where my help? It's like, well, you made a man turn. You got that man. That's your man. So, it is what it is. I think Muhammad's a good player. He's just I think this was a mixed bag this game. So I'm not gonna say he had a bad game because he made some plays. Played some football. All right. Arthur here with a super chat. Thank you, Arthur. Hello from Atlanta. I'm with Coach Shipley. Play to your strengths. Go 5 wide, a la Sims, Big 3 or Colton Quan, and pass pro with tempo. Slow plays don't work. Yeah, I mean, I'm with CJ though. I don't think he wanted to abandon a running game that early. I think he still had faith they could get it going because even in the third quarter. In the fourth quarter. Third quarter was miserable. In the fourth quarter, early on, he tries to run the football, and they have a couple of successful runs, like a 6-yard run, like another 5-yard run. So I think they thought, all right, we got to get this thing going late in the game. We're wearing them out, and turns out that was not the case at all. So, Eric here with a super chat. Eric says, "I know he doesn't like it, but it's time for an OC, maybe with Sark's input at times." What are your thoughts, Coach? You think it's time for an OC? I still think Sark can call the plays. He just has to modify modify the approach.
I don't know if it's time for an OC. Look, for all the gripes and complaints about the Texas offense, and trust me, it's been aplenty, especially in the third quarters recently, but Texas still top 10 offense and passing yards. The running games had 250 yards 3 of the last 5 games. Yep. They score points. They got talent. And I think that's where at times the talent may overcome some of the play calling deficiencies or what you want to call it, whatnot. But at the end of the day, Sarkisian's done a heck of a job putting his team in these positions, right? Yeah. So no, I'm not ready to completely strip him of play calling. Texas is going to be a top 4 team in the country again, right? This is where you want to be, and a lot of that's the result of the play calling. I said it, the game-winning touchdown to Gunnar Helm, probably the prettiest play call of the year. The 2-point conversion to Matthew Golden, pretty play call. That little smash route to the corner. I mean, Great throw, great catch, but that's finding a mismatch for one of your best wide receivers going up there and making a heck of a play and putting your guys in those positions to do just that. And we've talked about one last thing, Coach, before I send it over to you. I was giving Quinn a lot of credit saying he got the guys in positions twice for game-winning field goals.
Yep.
Who else did? Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
I like that.
I've wondered the same thing. As a head coach, I wound up hiring an offensive coordinator who was really, really good, but I still called about 25% of the plays. If I wanted to override it, I just overrode it. If I had something that I wanted at a certain moment, that's what I would call. But I don't know that Sark is quite ready to do that, although I think it's worth investigating. He's obviously really does does a great job and does well at watching film, scheming things when you know what they're going to be in, you know what your motion and all the things that you're doing, you know what they're going to adjust to. But just the 80% of the game between the first quarter and the last bit of the fourth quarter, he just there seems to be a void there. And I just wish he had somebody he really trusted that has been around him long enough, like Millie in my mind, who knows what he's thinking, knows what he likes to do, but let Sark free his mind a little bit and not worry about stuff. But when he feels it and he sees it, call it. You know, when you get the feeling, okay, we got him set up. This play's going to be a great play. We're going to run this, CJ. You know, but I'm like CJ. I don't know. He's arguably one of the best play callers in college football, although he's certainly in a rut right now, in my opinion, in the second and third quarter, especially third. Well documented.
No, I think he should still continue to call. I love your idea though, Coach. That you just took from your personal experience. Hey, you got veto power. All right, you got veto power early on, and I still want him to call the plays most of the time. But I'm with you. I just think early on, maybe he can let Milwee help him out, come up with a second half script, something like that. Something needs to change. I think we all agree with that.
Hey, but the nice thing about calling the plays as a head coach is you don't have anybody to blame. It's on you. It's totally on you.
That's true.
You know,
that's good and bad. I think
if you're going to go down, go down with your head on the chopping block.
Yeah, and Sark's all about accountability. I think he kind of likes it like that, like the buck stops here kind of thing. Like it's on me. I think he's fine with that. And you know what? Like I said, I'm fine with it too. We're just remarking about ways that Sark could evolve. And I think that's to me, the really promising thing is that he's still getting better. You're a top four, you're a Final Four team in back-to-back years. And we all agree your coach ain't a finished product. Not even close. Let's get back to the super chats. K35, I'm the best. When do we start holding Jeff Banks accountable for this poor special teams? Kicking, fake punt, blown, etc. Yeah, I mean, the Bert Auburn thing, Bert Auburn has the yips. I mean, can you blame a coach for a kicker getting the yips? I don't know if that's possible. The fake punt, damn, I went back and rewatched it. It was a really nicely designed fake punt. But you did score a touchdown on the punt return. It was, to me, it was kind of feast or famine, guys. I mean, I don't know. This might have been one of your better games, special teams wise, but also one of your worst games. It was kind of both at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, you did things that you hadn't done all year. Return a punt. You blocked a field goal again right before halftime. You had the good moments, but we've seen, and talk about being in ruts, we've seen special teams kind of have those lulls on fourth down. And I said this on Rapid Reactions, and I kind of still stick with it even after the Texas punt return from Silas Bolden is, look, I'm kind of to the point now in special teams, just play punt safe, catch the football, and let your offense work from wherever the punt goes. Because too many times have you seen Texas commit a penalty, right? I think Warren Roberson has about 6 penalties on special teams this year alone, right? Amari Niblack, early part of the year, had holdings and blocking the back so much so that they took him off of special teams.
Yeah.
Just catch the ball, give it to your offense. Because, again, to the point of the offense that we're talking about earlier, they're good. They're top 10 in the country when it comes to yards and points. What else do you need? I just give them the ball and let them work from there. But I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, this is definitely the worst year for Jeff Banks and special teams. But then your tight end is amazing. Don't forget he's a tight ends coach too. So I'll take this year. It's okay. More being a mixed bag. It's not a liability. I just don't know if it's a total strength for you right now either. Getting back to the super chat, Shannon, thank you for the super chat. Our defense has stepped up every game. We need Quinn to continue what he was doing at the end of the game. I think he wants to continue a story. That's a legacy game. If he wins a national title, we'll all go back to that moment, Coach, and go, yeah, 4th and 13. That'll become like a famous, like 4th. I'm on a Longhorn fan. You have to explain what you mean. You'll be like, man, 4th and 13. You'll be like, all right, that's a mic drop moment. 4th and 13. Yeah, you're right. Show it up.
Yeah, kind of like the BY moment. What was it? Yes. 4th and 5.
Yeah. Exactly right. 4th and 5. You know what it is. Coach got one of them with with Quan? He's got one of those. Was that the Ohio State game?
Ohio State.
Yeah,
no
man.
Doubt.
How about this one? Jeff says, Coach, drive to campus and shave Auburn's head. Yeah, maybe you could break the yips like that. You could break the curse. Maybe that's how you do it. Naaman Robert says, guys, why did Sark not put Arch in when he used Euros to sport the ball? Maybe Arch break one. You didn't see any of the Arch package. Is it because they just didn't have enough plays?
Hey,
what's up with the Arch package?
If yours hadn't spotted the ball to the left, we'd have made the field goal because we missed it freaking about 2 yards left.
Oh, my goodness. I can't believe that. Yeah. Yeah, don't get me started on that. Because, Quinn tripped. They were trying to get it all the way to the left, and then he tripped. But I guess that was good because they ended up missing it, hitting off the goalpost there anyway.
Yeah, he only missed it 6 inches instead of 3 yards like he would have.
So I don't even know if we can get the hash. The hash has nothing to do with it anymore. Now he's just got the yips, guys.
I was a little bit disappointed that there wasn't any Arch package in this game, really. I mean, if for nothing else than just to keep the opposing defensive coordinators on their toes. What can they do out of this package? Okay, here he is. We didn't put anything on film for Ohio State this week for Arch.
Yeah, think about it, Coach. I think we saw from Sam Levitt what a quarterback run game can do.
No doubt. And a losing quarterback, worth his weight in gold. That's what I've always said. You got a mobile quarterback. You're playing with 11 and a half, 12 guys on offense. It's hard to stop.
He's twitchy too, man. Sam Levitt's twitchy. I mean, it's a different type of athleticism with him. He's a good player. All right, let's take one more super chat, then we'll thank our land sponsor. Jay Soa says, CJ, any truth to us going after Noah Thomas?
Yes. Texas is interested. Georgia's interested. Miami's interested. So the expectation is that trip to campus at some point will occur. We'll see when that gets set up or whatnot. Obviously, Texas still very much in the running for a national championship game, so they're interested in Noah Thomas 100%.
All right, there you go. And it's 4:20 somewhere. It says, Rod, can you explain on that fake point why the player lined up at left tackle, number 22, is allowed to be 10 yards downfield in the ball zone? I don't know if he was that. Was he that far? I don't think he was that far downfield. He wasn't 10 yards downfield. I think he probably was further downfield. Is it 3 yards in college? What is it? Where the player can be downfield? So. It's different in the league than in college. Yeah.
Last man on the line. I'd have to rewatch it, but
I'll tell you what. The punt team is one of the times where you can have oddly eligible numbers, on the line of scrimmage. But I think it's a way to use deception for the officials because I see a 22 down the field. They don't think he's lined up at tackle, So it's one of those things where the refs get caught up in it. It's just not something they're used to looking at. It's a 22 being downfield, but he's lined up at tackle.
That's a great. I never thought about that, Coach, but that's money. That's a great point because when I went and rewatched it, I saw that it was like a 22, like a obviously skill position number. So I didn't look at it, but that guy that I was looking at, he's about 4 yards. So you could make the argument if you're being nitpicky. He's in those books. I think 3 yards is the NCAA rule. But you're right, Coach. Maybe when you see a man with a 22 on there, it don't stand out to you.
Right.
That's a great point. Let me thank our last sponsor before we end our live stream here. Texas football fans, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s, all marked down with huge savings. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. And right now, they actually have a great deal happening with over 50 Ram 2500s, all marked down with huge savings. You can check that out at southpointdodge.com, or you can go see their inventory in person off of I-35 in South Austin. Thank you very much to our friends over at South Point Dodge. Austin's automotive everything, whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. Thank you very much. We appreciate southpointdodge.com, and we appreciate all you guys for watching, listening. 13-3 right now. Notre Dame up on Georgia. I'm sure you guys are paying attention to that. So, the backup quarterback, Gunnar Stockton, doesn't look like he's working out for him pretty well with that. So, We'll see. We'll monitor it, and we'll be talking about that. And, of course, lots of Longhorn football coming up tomorrow. We'll have coffee and football tomorrow, and we'll have our Friday live stream tomorrow as well. Probably be at 1 p.m. for our Friday live stream. Coach, thank you for everything. We appreciate all of your wisdom and knowledge. CJ, thank you all for all the nuggets and the hard work. Matthew behind the scenes, we appreciate Matthew. He's the real MVP. And thank you guys for all the super chats. Sorry we couldn't get to all the questions. You guys had a ton of really good questions they wanted to get to. Couldn't get to all of them, but direct those to the guys at Coffee and Football at 8 a.m. tomorrow, or direct them to us at our live stream coming up at 1 p.m. tomorrow as well. Thank you guys for the super chats. Thank you guys for all the questions and participation. Thanks to our sponsor, South Point Dodge. Thank you very much to Hardgrove Roofing. Thank you very much to Flat Creek Estate Winery as well. And thank you to Duck Camp. And until next time, hook 'em horns.